Thank you everyone for joining us, and for those who will continue to join us. We are so excited to have today 3 admissions counselors from the University of Maryland to talk about the application process there and do an application workshop. Karina Manoukian will be doing the presentation, and then we also have Kenya Taylor and Caitlin Haller who will be monitoring the chat box and the Q&A function to answer questions live. So they do have all the fabulous questions that those of you who submitted in advance submitted, and we'll work to get to those. But also, as you go, please feel free to submit questions in the Q&A function, and Kenya and Caitlin will be able to monitor those as they come in. If Karina says something and you have an immediate follow-up question, do not hesitate, please put it in there. They're here to answer all those questions and really want this to be a good resource for all of you. Did I miss anything? All right, and with that, I will let Karina take it away. Thanks so much. I'm gonna mute.
Okay, let me know if you all can see my screen. I think you should be able to. Perfect. Awesome. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Karina Manoukian. I am an admissions counselor with the University of Maryland. My specific territories that I usually work with are Northern New Jersey and then Long Island, Nassau County. Of course, we're helping you guys out today. I have my 2 other colleagues with us, and like we said, we're going to be monitoring the chat. So if you have any questions throughout today, go ahead and just pop those in the question and answer portion, and we'll be able to answer those as the presentation goes on. And then at the end, I will leave time for any of the questions that you guys already asked, and of course, live questions as well too. So just so you know, we're really just going to go into the exact application process. What do you need when you apply? How do you apply? What platforms there are? And really just help you understand what it means to apply to college. So we're just going to go into this. I'll have my information right here on the screen right now. The best way to contact us is applymaryland@umd.edu. I will have this also at the end as well, but here's our information and let's dive in. So the application process itself, our purpose is just to give you a good insight about what goes into the application process and how exactly each school will review your specific applications. Every school is a little bit different. I will share a lot of information that's really more applicable to the University of Maryland, but also a lot of general information to help you out as well. There are different types of applications and the requirements. We'll go through that. Of course, exactly what the University of Maryland looks for when evaluating their class. And then the 3 different types of applicants. And we'll kind of go through and be like, here are their stats. What do you think? Do you think they got in or do not? So that's kind of how the setup of today's presentation is going to be going for you today. Now, so here are the types of applications. So first we have the multi-institution application. These are most common. They really provide access to a lot of different colleges. So what this means, multi-institution, is you're going to have one platform with a variety of institutions to apply for. So the Common App actually has 750 schools and institutions. So you go on the Common App, you apply your general information, and then you're able to apply to all those additional 750 schools with all their extra essays or anything that they might have specifically for that school. Same with the Coalition, which is what University of Maryland uses. There's about 80 different schools on there, and you go ahead and apply in all your information, and then you go ahead and talk about the specific information required for each school. We'll go a little bit deeper into the Coalition later. And lastly, the final type of application is the individual institution application. These are usually specific to institutions. Sometimes more highly selective schools actually might have their own separate process because they track something called demonstrated interest to see how much effort a student is going to be able to put forward to see how interested they are. Georgetown is a great example of this. Georgetown actually has their own separate application that students need to go ahead and apply through Georgetown itself. They're not going to be able to be found on something like the Common App or the Coalition. Sometimes too, universities just go ahead and have those individual institution application. Townsend in Baltimore City actually has their own separate application for their school. it's really important to make sure that you kind of create that list of every single school that you're looking at and really just go ahead and see what application process they're looking at. Also, for the multi-institution applications, of course, you have the application fees itself that we'll get into, but it does not cost money to go ahead and create an account. So those are two great things to go ahead and explore, just so you can understand what schools are on what application. Going a little bit deeper into the coalition itself, which is what, again, University of Maryland uses, there's a lot of different aspects of it. So the first part is the virtual locker. This is going to hold all your personal information, your classic demographic, where you're from, what high school you went to, anything of that sort. It allows you to attach your resume and just have all your information stored in one area. Then what's kind of special to the coalition is there's really a collaborative space. So if you want to know about SAT prep, counselors are able to go ahead and reach out to say, this is exactly how we need the letters of rec for students to ask. There's free testing guides and other just great tools for students to go ahead and utilize through the coalition. And then lastly, there's the application portal itself where you can go ahead, select what schools you're interested in and go ahead and apply to them as well. The coalition is set up to automatically also waive any fee waivers that you might have. So as long as you say, oh, I receive free lunch at school, that would qualify as a free waiver for the application. The coalition automatically tracks that, so you're able to apply with no problem. Going in a little bit deeper then into the actual components of your college application. There's a lot on the screen, but these are kind of just the general things that every single school is going to be looking for when you go ahead and submit an application. First and foremost, of course, there's going to be that application form, all that classic demographic information that I was kind of just talking about, and the rest of these required documents. So we're really just trying to make sure that we understand exactly who you are as a student, and all of these different components really gives us the context of who you are as a student, as a person, and just an overall. So of course, we have the application form itself with all those extra things, any fee waivers, fees that also might be mentioned there, and all the exemptions listed. Usually on your application, they'll ask you if you qualify for any specific fee waivers. This can be, again, that free sponsored lunch. Maybe you're a National Merit Scholarship finalist because of your SAT. That can also count. It never hurts to ask to see if you can go ahead and apply to that school for free. Going a little bit deeper, then we have our high school transcripts. So of course, you got grades throughout your high school career. We want to know exactly what your scores were and everything of that sort. So you can go ahead. There's two different ways to do this, and most schools will ask for both. There's your self-reported, and then there's your official. Self-reported is just you telling us exactly what class you took, what grades, and then your official actually comes from your school, so we know exactly what grades and everything. It's kind of a just trusting basis for the self-reporting, but the official transcripts actually prove this for us. It's really important to note too that when you apply, most of the time, schools are not going to be looking at your senior year grades, but we are going to be able to see exactly what classes you signed up for senior year. So if, let's say, you're applying to school and the deadline is going to be in November 1st, just like University of Maryland is for our early action deadline, if you apply for that deadline, you're not done with your first semester of your senior year, so there's no way for us to go ahead and look at those senior year grades. However, some schools sometimes do something called hold for grades. And in this process, they might say, okay, your application looks good. We really want to see how you're going to do your senior year. So they might ask you to submit a mid-year report or anything of that sort, just so they can go ahead and see those grades. However, let's say you applied by January 1st, you're already going to have that first semester of senior year grades in. So then you might be required to go ahead and submit that additional mid-year grades for your application. It all kind of depends on the school and what time you apply for. So really make sure you're checking out those dates overall. Now, going on to test scores. As you know, COVID-19 really threw things off for a lot of you students. And that's something all of us know here at any institution across the board in the United States without a doubt. And of course, all around the world. College Board recommends that every institution really tries to remain flexible just with test scores, because we understand that you might not have been able to take a test at all, or you're going to retest to take a higher score and you weren't able to. It's really important to look at exactly if your school that you're applying for is test optional, is it not, and how they're really trying to adapt to help students. Every institution is different, and there's a lot of great resources out there for you to fully understand exactly what the testing scheme looks like during this particular climate. But going in and just talking about specific tests, there's usually 4 main ones. It's going to be your SAT, your subject testing, your ACT, and then of course your test optional. Test optional really just means that testing is not required. You don't need to submit a test score when applying to a school. Some schools do have different meanings on optional. Let's say you're applying to a liberal arts college. You might not necessarily even need a testing score specifically. It kind of all just depends, especially for art schools. So really just go ahead and look at your specific requirements for schools. Then, of course, we're going to have our SAT. You're going to go ahead and take that combined score for 1,600 points, 800 in math, 800 in English, and just see how you do. Then, of course, with the ACT, a little bit different. It's going to be the maximum score of 36, and they're going to be judging how you score in math, English, science, and reading. Now, it is important to note that most universities do super score. So what that means is, let's say you take that SAT 2 times. The first time you took it, you got a 600 in math and a 600 in English. However, the next time you took it, you got an 800 in math and a 300 in English. They're going to go ahead and take that 800 from the first time you took it and then the 600 from the other and combine those scores within that particular test. So that way everything's kind of a combined total to really help out the students. Same goes with the ACT. There's also super scoring across that. It's really important to go ahead and see if your school does super score or if they do not. Also, there's never super scoring cross exam, so they're not going to super score your SAT with your ACT since they are on 2 complete different grading scales, but they will do it within each test. Subject testing, of course, is also an option. Most schools do not require subject testing. Some schools do, just depending on their selectivity. It's really important for you to go ahead and look at those requirements per institution as well. And if you have ever any questions about testing, I'd be happy to answer those later as well. Or don't forget, you can use our Q&A feature to ask any questions that you have throughout. Kenya and Caitlin are in there to answer. Going a little bit deeper, of course, we have those college essays. A lot of schools actually already have their essays already listed through the Common App, the Coalition, or even through their institution themselves. We always say start early to go ahead and prepare yourself the best way possible. So what I kind of mean by that is when you're filling out your application and everything, we really just, your college essay is the very first time we really get to hear from you students. It's your first time that you ever get to speak directly to us and provide any context about who you are and what would make you a great fit to any institution. And it's really about how well you can write. You're able to tell us something about yourself. It's, like I said, the one time you really get to dictate your specific narrative to us. So it's really important to start early, really avoid any of those common themes, try to make your essay unique, and really just go ahead and put your best foot forward, making sure everything is proofread and everything before you submit. And because all those essays are usually out there right now, it's really easy to go ahead and start. Also, even though there are all many different ways to go ahead and apply to universities, majority of the time, a lot of essays are actually used for the same route. So majority of the time, you can use a Common App essay for the Coalition application as well. And even sometimes small institutions as well. It kind of all depends, but it's really something to look forward when you're going to go ahead and start writing those essays. Also, another thing to mention is some schools might even have supplemental essays on top of your regular first college essays. Johns Hopkins, for instance, has an additional 1-word 500 essay. Stanford, I believe, has 3 100 to 250 word essays. It is important usually to go ahead and stay within that specific word length. They are there for a reason. There's a lot of applications to go through, and it's really important to go ahead and convey yourself as a strong writer to be able to go ahead and show your point within that amount of space given. Also, my favorite part personally about applications is going to be short answer questions. University of Maryland loves to use our short answer questions. They're very similar to supplemental essay questions, but they're also even shorter than that. Usually about 50 words or less can go ahead and completely answer your question. And they're just meant to get to know you and really just kind of break the ice a little bit, I would say. For example, one of our questions on our application is, what was your favorite thing you did last Thursday? I can tell you personally, the favorite thing I did last Thursday was I made Alfredo, and it was the best thing I ever had. It can be something as simple as that to really just show us your personality and get to know you better. Now, let's go on to letters of recommendations. From who, how many. So every school is different. Most schools are going to ask you for one counselor and then one teacher, and they might even also leave space for any additional letters of recommendation. This can be from a coach, a pastor, a mentor, whoever can really speak on your involvement as an individual. So so when you go ahead and submit those, make sure you're going to go ahead and ask all of your people early, so that way they have time to write. We usually say about 3 to 4 weeks before you really want to submit your application. A lot of people are going to be asked for letters of recommendation during this time, especially teachers and counselors. So it's always great to go ahead and put your best foot forward, ask early. That way too, you're able to check in and make sure that everything is running according to schedule for you. Now, it's also really great to go ahead and diversify exactly who you're asking for your letters of recommendation. For your counsel letter, they're usually just going to tell us about your school. If we're not familiar, give us any of those facts and statistics. And also let us know about any larger difficulties or things outside of the classroom that we need to know about. Of course, COVID-19 is going to be something we're constantly going to hear about in these counsel letters. And it's great to know if you went pass fail, if you didn't, how was your switch to an online learning environment? These are all things we can take into context when your counsel let us know in that letter of recommendation. Next, for a teacher letter, it just really tells us the type of student that you are. It really lets us know exactly too how you might have persevered through a specific problem in a class or anything of that sort. And it just lets us know how teachers know you and see you as a person, not only academically, but also personally as well. You can always choose your favorite core subject, math, English, science, social studies. Also, don't be afraid to go ahead and really think about exactly what teachers will really able to speak to you the best. Sometimes we see students who are going to want to ahead and submit multiple teacher letters of recommendation, but if you're a great student, really just go ahead and hone down in and think who can be able to speak on me the best, because the majority are, maybe just pick who your favorite teachers were and you feel like can truly represent you. Then of course, with any additional letters, just a great way to speak on involvement, like I said. Find out if schools require them and how to submit them if they're not a part of the classic system. But they're always encouraged if you feel like that can really help you, go ahead and really truly speak on you as a person. Of course, there's also activity lists to let us know all your involvements in school, any leadership opportunities, community service. Don't be afraid also to mention any personal family responsibilities as well during this. Let's say you always have to babysit your brother or your sister, or you have to help out around the household or family business. So that really takes away your time from extracurriculars. Well, that is an extracurricular itself too. That's outside of your coursework. It really shows that you're trying to get involved, put your best foot forward in life. So don't be afraid to go ahead and tell us about these situations as well. And then of course, your FAFSA. This is the free application for student aid. We have a slide on FAFSA later, but just, there's different types of aid to go ahead and finance your college career. There's need aid and there's also need aware. Some aid can actually be based on your finances in the account. That'd be need aware. And then need blind, they actually don't take into any of your finances in account. So there's multiple ways to finance your education. We'll get into that further, but just so you're aware of it right now. Now, going into specifically UMD, for our freshman checklist, these are the kind of things that we really look for and that we ask every single student to go ahead and submit to us to have a complete application. So we're going to ask, of course, for your application form. Again, that's just your basic demographic information, what high school you went to, who your parents are, do you have any siblings? Did any of them attend University of Maryland? Anything of that lines. Of course, the application fee or fee waivers if you're also eligible for one. Letters of recommendation. We only ask specifically for one teacher and one counselor. You are allowed to submit more than one teacher though. We just say you need specifically one teacher and one counselor, at least at the minimum. Your official high school transcript and anything of that sort. If you took any dual credit courses, make sure that they're noted on your transcript so that we're able to keep that in mind too during the application process. And of course, official standardized test scores, SAT or ACT. If you are not a native English speaker, go ahead and submit those TOEFL or language requirement scores. These are only required when English is not your native language. However, if you've been in high school and you've been taking English and you're going to graduate with your degree for all 4 years without taking anything like ESL, you're good as well. We have all those listed on our website too. Then activity lists in your resume, and of course our essay questions as well. So that's kind of our general thing that we need for our classic freshmen. And just so you know, also transfer is also an option available at University of Maryland. The main difference between a freshman and then a transfer applicant is you're already going to have, we graduated from high school, you're going to have college credits, and we're just going to go ahead and ask to see those college credits. If you're above 30, we just need to see your classic college transcript. If you're below, we're going to need to see your high school transcript, your test scores, and everything of that sort. But that is also an option for the University of Maryland overall. Everything is usually the same though for your application checklist. Now, right here, we have our 26 factors that we look at. So the University of Maryland is actually a holistic application process. So what that means is, of course, we look at your SAT and your GPA. However, that's not going to be the only things that we look at in your actual application. Instead, we're going to be looking at a lot of different factors to go ahead and see exactly who you are as a person overall. So you're not just your test scores and GPAs. There's many other things that you can control, and we want to get to know that. And that's also a great thing to go ahead and mention in your essay. So just so you know a little bit more about our student profile right now before I get into all the 26 factors. We had about 32,000 plus applications this past year. For a fall class of around 4,500 students. Our fall profile was about a GPA of a middle 50% of a 4.33. The middle 50% SAT was about a 1330 to a 1490. And the middle 50 ACT was a 30 to a 33. Now, these are only our middle averages. So of course, about 25% of our students in our profile were lower that were accepted, and 25% were also higher. Because we are the flagship institution to the state of Maryland, majority of our students do come from in-state, about 70%, but we take everything into account, and that's just because we are the main institution also to the University of Maryland. Now, going more into exactly how our application is read. So test scores and everything are important, like I mentioned, but there's a lot of other things that really develop who you are. Like I mentioned earlier, any activities in your resume to let us know community involvement, community service, and any of those demonstrated leadership that we'd love to see, but also breadth of life experiences as well. Let's say you had to go through a death of a family member during your sophomore year of high school, and that really took a toll on your grades. Let us know that in the additional information. That's something that really affected you, and that's something that really helps us put into context exactly who you are during that time. Is English a second language, or is another language spoken at home? Let us know. Your family education background. If you're a first generation to college student, this whole entire thing is completely a new experience for you and your family to go ahead. And that can be a really difficult thing to go ahead and go through. But by letting us know, we're able to put everything into context. And that's exactly what these 26 factors do. Really lets us know exactly who you are as a person, as a student, and just as a member of society to let us know, can you be a good fit for Maryland, and is Maryland a good fit for you? We're really in the process of admission. We're all a part of admissions here. We're not looking for that one thing to deny you. We're always trying to look for that one thing that we're going to do to accept you. And these things really provide the context that gives us that additional information that helps us make our decisions. Now, there are different types of application deadlines to really consider. The first one is going to be early decision. This is going to be usually the very first deadline that you're going to see. So with early decision, it's going to be a binding contract. So what this means is when you apply early decision to a university, you are saying that if you get accepted to that university, you are going there. It's a contract. You're saying if I'm offered admission, I am automatically enrolled at that university. So you're not able to apply to any other universities or anything of that. You're saying, if I go ahead and get accepted there, no matter what, I'm going to enroll. So you can still submit other applications, but if you're accepted into your early decision, you're going there. This is really good for students who really have a very strong pull to one specific college. You've known all your life, you're like, this is it, visited, maybe it's an alumni household. Early decision could be the best for you. Not all institutions actually offer early decision, so it's a great thing to go ahead and see. Next, we have early action. This is actually non-binding, but it's kind of same as early decision as it really shows true interest in a university. It really lets us know that this is one of your top schools and that you're really interested in going there. However, it's non-binding. If you get accepted, you still have the choice to go ahead and look at and consider other universities to attend to. For University of Maryland and for other universities as well, it really gives you priority consideration for admission because it's usually a smaller pool of applicants. But then of course, for University of Maryland specifically, it also gives you consideration to merit scholarships and special programs like the Honors College or the Scholars Program and anything of that sort. Their UMD's early action deadline is November 1st. It's the best time to apply to University of Maryland because you get all these extra considerations within your application. If you apply something like regular decision, which is our next application type, you're not going to be able to consider for any of those special benefits, usually for a university. Instead, it's just a final deadline to go ahead and apply. There's no real special benefits or consideration. You're just applying. Will I get in? Will I not? You're not really getting extra considered for any of those special programs or merit scholarships usually. Every institution is different. This is also mostly specifically towards University of Maryland when I say you're not considered for any of those special benefits. Lastly, we have rolling. Rolling is kind of as you apply, you hear, it's just on a constant basis versus early decision, early action, and regular decision. Those have strict deadlines. So after we get all these applications in, once our deadline hits, then we're going to start reviewing. However, for rolling, it's more of, oh, we get the applications in, we're just going to go ahead and keep reviewing as they come in. So it's more of a rolling process. Yeah, super fun. There's no fixed deadlines, and the notifications on those always kind of depend on the school policies. So it's always best to just go ahead and look that up. Now, when completing the application, you always want to make sure to check your application status. It's really important that you meet your application deadlines. And by application deadlines, I mean that you make sure that everything that you need for your university checklist for your application is in by your specific deadline. So let's say November 1st, early action, everything is in except for one letter of recommendation. You want to make sure that that letter of recommendation still arrives by November 1st, even though you were done in October, and not November 7th. Everything needs to be completed by your deadline. So that way it's 100% complete. Of course, with testing situations right now, maybe that might be a part of a conflict, but as I mentioned, College Board recommends that all universities go ahead and remain flexible with that because we understand there's not as many testing options for you right now. But for the most part, make sure that you have everything for your application deadline on your specific, make sure you have everything in for your application on that specific deadline. It's your responsibility to verify that all the required materials are received. Universities and institutions are not going to reach out to you saying that, oh, you don't have this, you don't have this. This is just a process of adult life that you guys are slowly getting into. You have to make sure that you're checking on everything yourself. Also, it's really important to send important updates just to make sure that everything is keeping up the track, that you're checking in with anything that you're asking. Also, check your email to let you know if there's any changes from the school or university, if anything changed. Make sure you're just staying up to date, or if there's any problems in Coalition or the Common App or specific universities are reaching out to you. Also, and most importantly, relax. It's okay. I always say start early so you can kind of go ahead and procrastinate a little bit, because that's who I was at that time in my life. And it's a lot to go ahead and take in, apply, and gather. So don't be afraid to do a little bit one day, a little bit the next, especially if you're starting early. And just go ahead and breathe. Make sure you're reaching out to family members, friends, and trying to get that support if you need it, because they're really there for you to help. Your guidance counselors. And of course, if you have any questions about the process, feel free to reach out to any of us at any institution all across the board. Speaking for University of Maryland, I would love to answer any questions you guys might have about our application process later on. It's literally my job, and it's why I love doing what I do. Now, with financing your education, there's different types of aid. Like I said, for need-based, the FAFSA becomes available October 1st. The UMD priority FAFSA deadline is going to be January 1st. I have our UMD code also listed there if you guys have already applied or anything like that. You can also go ahead and file out your FAFSA even if you haven't started your application processes yet too. So you can go ahead and get that started when it goes ahead and opens up. Also, there's also always merit-based scholarships as well. These happen when students apply early action. Applicants get automatically reviewed for merit scholarships. There's no separate application. Also, I provided a really great link down there, go.umd.edu/types-of-aid. You can go ahead and read about all these different ways to finance your education. Also, never be afraid to reach out to any financial offices. They are really there to help students and let you know exactly the best way to finance your education. They're professionals, and they can really help you out and sort out the best way for you personally. Now, there are different types of admissions as well. So of course, there's the fall, which is the classic that most students go ahead and hear about. For the fall, you're gonna go ahead and apply, and then you're gonna go ahead and start your school during that August-September timeline. Spring, let's say you're gonna go ahead and be reviewed. You might not be accepted to fall, but you might be accepted to the spring semester instead. Some schools and institutions do this, like University of Maryland. However, we also provide ways for those spring students to be on campus for the fall semester. We do a program called Freshman Connection. Due to spacing and available on campus, we can't offer everybody fall admission, but we are able to offer spring, and say if a student wants to be on campus during the fall time, they can take classes, but it has to be during our off-peak hours of 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. versus our busiest hours of 8 a.m. to 3. So you're just taking classes at night versus on the daytime. There's also, of course, education abroad opportunities, or if you want to take classes at a community college before you go ahead and start your spring semester, that's a great way to go ahead and lower cost. There's also waitlisting. Usually with waitlisting, if you're not offered admission directly, they're going to go ahead and put you on a wait list. Then after a certain amount of time, after everyone's been reviewed, you can either get accepted into the university or even denied. Some schools have wait lists, some schools do not. It's really just a good thing to know about the application cycle. And then of course, we also have denied. I know the big scary one, but it's just a process of it. And there's so many great institutions out there. So don't feel stressed about everything that I just said right there. Really just look at all your options and see what is best for you. And don't be also afraid to apply to any of those safety schools too that you might be looking at. And now, this is kind of like a little fun part. It's more of a just me speaking and you guys kind of thinking out loud for me. So here are 3 different students for us to look at. So first, we have student A. And we're going to go through student A's specific profile right here. And then I'm just going to talk it out, kind of see what I see. And then I'm going to tell you guys if I think this student would be admitted with special programs or denied. So student A, they had a 4.2 GPA. So I can already tell that they probably took AP, dual credit, something that already bumps them up if they're able to get above a 4.0. So they had a rigorous class load. SAT score is a 1450, so that's right in our middle 50%. They were captain of the Science Olympiads. They had leadership in track and cross country, and they had several extracurricular activities. Nothing was mentioned about them having any C's, anything of that sort, so I can go ahead and guess that they had pretty much like a straight A or AB average. Looking at this right here, I can see they have great leadership opportunities. They really know how to balance their schedule with the increase of rigor. And then of course, with their extra activities, I could say this student fits a great profile of someone who would be admitted and then maybe into a special program of scholars. Next, we have student B. We see they have a 3.9 GPA, so a little bit below our 50%. Their ACT is a 28, and they have a 1340 SAT. Then we see they had 2 C's their freshman year. They do 2 sport athletes, their captain and manager, 2 clubs, seasonal employee at a local establishment, and lots of community service hours. So I can see if they only had C's their freshman year, that means that they had an upward trend in their grades, even with the incline of rigor that they might have experienced. So they were really just growing as a student overall. They only had their C's during their freshman year. They're still really involved. They have great extracurriculars. They're a little bit below our middle 50%, but I'd probably be safe to say that this student B would be accepted into the University of Maryland, just based on who they are. They were able to grow as a student and all their extracurriculars. Next, we have student C. So I see they had a 4.15 GPA. So that tells me they, of course, had some rigor in their schedule. 1390 SAT. Now, they had 2 C's their junior year. So that means they had a slightly downward trend in their grades. They are part of the National Honor Society. They're a member of cross country, and they joined 1 club during their junior year. Now, unlike these other students, there's not specific leadership that's mentioned. They don't seem to be as involved as the other students, just in comparison. Also, they have a slight downward trend in their grades. So based on that fact, just looking at the general profile, I would say that this student could be denied to the university just because of that downward trend. So as the rigor increased, they weren't really able to handle their course load. And of course, when you're gonna go ahead and go into college, things change, classes are harder, and you wanna go ahead and see the involvement that students are able to balance their lifestyles accordingly. So student C would probably be denied into the university. If you have any questions about that, feel free to drop that into the Q&A. I'd be happy to go ahead and go further as well into that as well. I said as well twice. But some helpful hints for you guys. Most institutions make their application available around August 1st. It's never too early to get started on your application, like I mentioned. Ask for help, have a teacher, friend, family member proofread your essay or resume. Talk to your friends about it. If you feel like no one else can understand, they're probably going through the same thing as you, and just kind of go through all these different things that you're thinking in your head. Also, like I mentioned, request your letters of recommendation early. 3 to 4 weeks is ideal in advance, just so that you're really able to go ahead and get all those in. Teachers have the time to go ahead and write them up, and if there's any questions or anything of that sort, able to answer them. Also, you can go ahead and check in to make sure everything is in by your application deadline. Okay, now here's my information one more time for you guys. If you ever need to reach out to me, you just email me at applymaryland@umd.edu. But I'm gonna take the time right now before we open it up to a live Q&A to answer some of the questions that you already had asked us. So one of the things people asked us was just about the admissions requirements, and I kind of mentioned this earlier with our 26 factors. So we really do have a holistic application, and about 1/3 of these factors are academic, but a majority of them are going to be different things that really affect our mission, who we value as a university, residency status, special talents and skills, first generation in college, demonstrated leadership, academic endeavors, and outside of the classroom even. We're really trying to take this all into account So really the best thing you can do for your application, no matter what institution you apply to, is really provide the context of who you are as a student. Also, there are a lot of different majors and everything out there too, and we got a lot of questions early on about that. So we have 12 schools and colleges with over 90 academic majors, anything ranging from agriculture to business to public policy to computer science. We really have it all. We also have 80+ minors, and many of our students choose either a double major or a double minor. It kind of all depends on how you want to build your track record. It's really easy for you to go ahead and major in, let's say, liberal arts, but also take classes in the business school. However, sorry, I have a fly around me. However, there's something that I should mention too is at the University of Maryland, we have some specific programs called limited enrollment programs. These are going to be our most popular first-year majors for our students. I believe they're going to go ahead and put that information in the chat if you want to go ahead and see all the links to that information as well. But what that means for a limited enrollment program is just because we have a very popular programs, in order to maintain the quality of it, we do not we limit the amount of students who are able to be directly admitted into those specific programs. So our most competitive programs, for instance, are business, computer science, and engineering. So what this means is we review major blind. So when you first get into the University of Maryland, you apply, you're going to be reviewed specifically for admission to the university. Then we're going to look at your major. If you're wanting to take classes in, let's say, chemistry, biology, business, those are our limited enrollment programs. So then you're going to be reviewed specifically for your major. If your major isn't a limited enrollment program, you are directly admitted into your specific college. However, if it is a limited enrollment program, then you're going to go ahead and be reviewed and just make sure that you meet all the specific requirements. Usually, the students who apply to our most competitive programs, like business, computer science, those are our students who are going to be in the top 25% of that freshman year class. It's more of our competitive programs, like I mentioned. However, you are still able to get into those programs if you're not directly admitted. All that happens is you're going to take specific gateway classes, and it's just going to show that you're able to handle the course load. And these classes are the exact same classes that any other first year in those specific majors are taking. You have to get specific grades. Usually it's above a C-, and it just shows that you're able to go ahead and hold yourself to the curriculum. Also, someone asked, how easy or difficult is it to move from another college other than what you were accepted into? Kind of like I just mentioned, if you want to go ahead and switch majors, if it's not an LEP, you're automatically able to switch into it. However, if it is, you might have to require those specific gateway classes. Students are able to change majors at any point during their undergraduate experience, the type of major, and when you change your major, it can vary your graduation plan, but that's just something academic advisors are there to help you out with specifically. And of course, there's different ways to go ahead and learn when you're on campus as well. There's internship opportunities, the best study abroad or research. The best learning doesn't always happen in the classroom, and that's something we really try to preach at the University of Maryland because we offer many unique experiences. For internships, more than 335 employers come onto our campus to go ahead and recruit our students. We have our specific career center, but then we also hold career fairs. So students can go ahead and meet different companies like NASA, Ernst & Young, Smithsonian institutions, the FBI, Under Armour, and try to learn about any of these opportunities to go ahead and grow professionally while they're still in school. Of course, we have our study abroad programs as well. We have higher than the national average for students who study abroad. About 22% of our students actually choose to go abroad. We have placements in over 400 cities, over spread in 6 continents. It doesn't matter how rigorous your specific program is. If you're double majoring in biochemistry and business, there's a program out there for you that will fill your requirements. So you can go ahead and have that additional experience if you want. Also, there's different term lengths. So you can do a whole semester, you can do a summer program. It all kind of just depends on what fits into your schedule. And our advisors are always there to help you on campus. Also, because University of Maryland is a public research institution, this means that all of our faculty are also conducting experiments on the side as well as teaching. So it's a great way for you to go ahead and get involved in research if that's something you're interested in. Most professors and faculty members go ahead and say if they're looking for help in their labs during the first couple years in classes, or even just on a bulletin board somewhere. Along with that, you can go ahead and have your own research yourself if that's something you're interested in. Now, also in the chat, if you guys have not already seen, my two other colleagues also posted some information regarding the other questions you asked, specifically dealing with COVID-19. But just as I mentioned earlier, will there be a virtual option to all classes? For our specific time, learning and teaching this fall semester will have a mix of in-person and online blended education. However, students should expect to have most of the classes virtual during the fall semester. Will you be able to visit college this year? Already, we have great virtual programs for our institution and other institutions as well, already online. And in an effort to densify UMD and reduce the number of individuals who are going onto our campus, that's why we have these virtual opportunities. Is our campus open right now? Even during the situation? Yes, we are public, so it's easy drive. However, staying inside is always the best option just for safety reasons. And we have these additional opportunities for students to go ahead and tour online. And you can feel free to reach out to us. We're able to answer any of those questions that you have for you. But also, if you have any alumni that you know of or anything of that sort that graduated from your school, reach out to them. They'd be really easy and great first-person ways to learn about the exact University of Maryland college lifestyle. Now, in regards to deferring, did students from high school class of 2020 decide to defer? And then if yes, will that affect the number of spots for your grade? Every year, we receive about that 33,000 applications and accept about 4,000 students. We do have a deferral process. However, all deferral process is for those once in a lifetime opportunities, whether it's an internship, education abroad. So we do not see that affecting our freshmen applying for 2021. And then are universities considering moving to their social distance sports into the fall? According to our president's specific statement, all athletic departments have comprehensive plan to return safely to training, practice, and competition and work. That compiles with public health and guidelines of the NCAA and Big Ten conference requirements. So people are going ahead and start practicing, but anything for fall sports really relies on us complying and going forth with those said health guidelines. And then if you guys want, I can go ahead and discuss a little bit of that COVID section to the application as well. So one of the questions is going to be just about community disruptions regards to COVID-19 and natural disasters had a deep and long-lasting impact. And then if you need it, there's going to be a space on the application where you can go ahead and talk about your effects on your health, well-being, safety, family circumstances, future plans, education, including access to reliable technology in quiet study spaces. That's already listed on these multi-institutional places for you to go ahead and apply, and probably right now also on those smaller ones. It's a great way to go ahead and tell us exactly how maybe you were personally affected by COVID-19 and the changes you had, your family, your studies. You can go ahead and mention there specifically if it's COVID-19 related. But then again, we also have our additional information space if you need to talk about anything else that you feel like hindered your specific academic quality. Now, one question we also had is what have been the biggest changes to this process regarding COVID-19? So UMD's process is able to be conducted online, so students are able to complete their applications remotely. Our office understands that COVID-19 is playing a role into students' lives and will continue to take this into consideration during the application process. You can explain any and all extenuating circumstances you might have in your application. Like I said, the University of Maryland recognizes that not all students have been able to take a test or been able to retest to improve their previous test scores due to testing availability. We'll take this into matter when considering students for admission, but just always remember to check back onto the College Board website for updates and see if testing became more available or if testing is available at a later date as well. Now, does anyone have any questions they want me to answer? Let's see. You can go ahead and drop them into the Q&A itself. I actually cannot see the Q&A. Okay.
I can read you what one of the Q&A says. It says, do you want everyone to answer the COVID-19 question?
I wouldn't say you have to, but it's just a great way to go ahead and provide context. If you have no really good quiet study place to go ahead and study, let us know. It's just good to have more context. So if you feel like it could help you, context, just let us know. You don't have to by any means, but it just really lets us know if you had any specific difficulties during this time.
Right. I think a lot of students are grappling with this question of should they explain things that may not necessarily have interrupted their academic lives. But for example, if their spring sport was canceled, do you want them to explain that? Yeah.
You can go ahead and put that on your activity list. That's also something we 100% are considering as well, because all your extracurricular activities were kind of cut short during this time. You weren't really able to go ahead and explore that. We're taking that under consideration, but if you want to list on your activity list, just like a little blurb saying, had to get cut short, maybe I was going to go to this conference or this competition, but I wasn't able to go to it, let us know that.
Right. Someone wrote in, is the College Park campus test optional?
We are not test optional. Kind of like I mentioned, College Board is asking us to just remain flexible. So we're taking everything on an individual basis. So if your whole application is in, let's say November 1st, but you have your test score just isn't in directly yet, we'll take that into consideration. And we know there's a lot of students who need a test, but there's not that many testing available options just because of safety reasoning. So don't worry, just keep contact communication with us so we're able to take everything into context and just help you guys out.
Great. No one submitted this question, but I'm going to ask you. You mentioned demonstrated interest in the beginning. To what extent is that a factor in your review? And if you say you don't track it, what does that mean for students?
Yeah.
There's a lot of confusion about that. Yeah.
So University of Maryland does not track demonstrated interest, but what demonstrated interest is some of these more smaller, highly selective universities, they really love to see students go ahead and email, ask questions, and they kind of just track that to see how interested a student is in the university. So whether it's sending an email, going on a campus tour, or even just putting your name in the mailing list, these are all ways demonstrated interest can be tracked. Most universities, I would say, don't really track demonstrated interest, but it's always a good thing to go ahead and look at, especially if they have their factors listed for their holistic application process.
Great. I realize I'm just a disembodied voice talking to you, so turn on my camera. I don't see any more questions now. I know we said we would keep you here until 4:30, so I think we can, unless people want to submit more questions, we can stay on for a few minutes. Those who have to go are welcome to go. We did record this. We will send out the recording to everyone who attended so that you can watch it again. We will also put it on our website so that for those who also couldn't make it. So rest assured, if you missed anything in this presentation, we will make sure you get the information. You feel free to respond if you have any additional questions to the follow-up email you'll get, and we'll make sure to get you the answer. And I imagine those of you who opted into sharing your information with the University of Maryland may, going forward, receive updates from them as well, so that you can hear directly from them about any important changes that are happening in this world.
Also, just as an ending note for you guys, we did receive a question that we are going to go ahead and answer at the end because we thought it was best. What do you think is the key to success for a student at the University of Maryland? And just continue to just be engaged. At the University of Maryland, we love to see our students engage in both inside and outside of the classroom. It's something that we really do preach, and a lot of other universities do too as well. Our university aims to develop like personal skills, including leadership, self-confidence, and just classic like intellectual engagement. We see that students who strive to achieve personal growth while engaging in the classroom are really able to be the most successful on any college campus, especially at University of Maryland. So don't be afraid. This process might seem overwhelming, but it's just the next step for your great and amazing future that you have ahead of you.
That is a beautiful way to end. Thank you. Thank you so much, Karina, for your time, and Caitlin and Kenya, and thank you everyone for joining us. And good luck in this process. As Karina said, you will all do great.
Thank you all so much.
Take care.
Take care.